Welcome back. You're listening to Ask the CIO, sponsored by Okta on Federal News Network. I'm your host, Jason Miller. My guest today is Karen Reggie, the Chief Information Officer for the Directorate of Defense Trade Controls at the State Department. Karen, before break, we started getting into some of your newer priorities. You talked about data and the idea of cleaning up data. And you mentioned tools. You mentioned a couple different ones like Tableau and Elastic. But are there other tools you're looking at specifically maybe to help you get the cleaner data or to clean up the existing data?
Yeah, we're looking at all kinds of different options for that. And I'm actually thinking about trying to get Gartner to help with some of that, some of their research with different products, because there's just so much out there that it really does help to, sort of have a research, someone who's not actually from a vendor selling their product, someone on the research side. So I'm thinking that that's probably the best way to think about that.
And you may also get a couple calls now from this interview about that. So
right.
I'll warn you now. I apologize now up front when vendors call you. We'll get to them in a second too. The idea of cleaning data up, I mean, that seems like an opportunity then to apply artificial intelligence, machine learning, and those type of emerging technologies. Have you started down that path yet, or is that, again, something for 2020?
Yeah, we have not started down the path, but I do see areas where those types of technologies are going to be relevant to do the mission better.
Yeah. A lot of agencies, as you talk to about AI or ML or predictive analytics in some way, they're using some sort of like sandbox or proof of concept. Mm-hmm. Any plans yet? Is there anything in mind that you can talk to yet? Or is that, again, I know we talked later in 2020, but do you see an opportunity that, okay, that's the first place I'm going to apply this type of technology?
Well, I have some ideas and some things that I've been really excited about, but I do want to make sure that the offices that I support bring what they want in terms of what they think is the priority. And so I'm not ready to really talk about that right now, but a lot of discussions on the strategy for how to use those types of technologies are going on right now.
And so much of it goes back to the beginning of our conversations, the user expectations, and I hear that from CIOs all the time now, which is so, again, refreshing from what it was 5, 10, 15 years ago, where we're talking to the mission more and more, and we have those kind of meetings. I mean, how often do you talk to your mission folks? I imagine every day.
Every day,
yeah.
Every day,
and it's no longer them throwing requirements over the transom, so to speak, and you going, okay, let's fill the requirements. How's the conversation work to ensure that you're meeting mission goals and they understand what technology can do? Because I'm sure that, I heard about this thing that can do this, can't you do it? And you're like, whoa, slow down.
Right. I mean, so we have different project teams that work with the different organizations, and they're literally talking to people every day, going down, asking questions, and it's an iterative process, as you can imagine.
Right.
It's very agile. We come up with something, it's not quite right. The next week we come back and we get it closer.
Is that was when you came to the Defense Trade Controls Directorate? Was that culture already there? Is that something that you had to kind of shape the culture of not just the user-centric focus, but the agileness of it all?
Yeah, it was not agile when I got here, and the user-centric piece wasn't either. And this is an organization that has used the same technology for the last, since 2000. And so a lot of the people weren't even around when these systems were built. And we get a lot of young people coming in, and they're like, whoa, like, what is this?
SQL backend.
Right. And so and so because we have, I think the range of age is, we have interns, of course, that are in college, and then I think we have someone who's almost 80. And so, we have a very wide range of generations in this ecosystem internally.
Because you have one COBOL system left and that person has to be now.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the users.
Okay.
Most of our developers.
Missionaries.
We only, I wanted to take a couple of the legacy people into the new project. And so we took about 4 people on both the network and the application side, only 4. And people told me I needed, 20. And I said, maybe, but I want to have 4. And what I have found is that they have learned the new technologies and are very excited. So they've kept the store open, but I also had them working on the new technology as well. as a way of making sure that you have the continuity of understanding, because sometimes the users don't even understand all the requirements because the systems were built so long ago. So you kind of need the technologist to remind people, well, it did it like this because this is what was necessary. Is that still the case?
The limitation, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You mentioned earlier, as we talked through identity and access management, that everything was at FISMA moderate. Is there a need to go to FISMA high? Is there a need to do you deal with classified data, classified systems?
We do deal with classified systems. We actually, for our license adjudication process, we log in to a Citrix farm over in DoD at DITSA. So that's where the classified piece is. And so the other thing that's really important about our environment that has been a huge challenge is going from the unclass to the classified system and back down to the unclassified and out to the internet, right? And so a lot of that, we're needing to work with the main state IRM IT area to try and get the cross-domain solution that allows us to go from the SBU, the sensitive but unclassified network, over to classified, and do that in an automated way. Because right now, that's done with human intervention.
Is it multiple boxes underneath your desk and you're flipping one box on and then the other box?
Yeah, that's what it is.
And is the potential for identity and access management, because you guys are role-based, something that can further down the road get rid of that other box, or is that still?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, right now, our legacy system puts a third box under the desk. So we're going to get rid of the third box
first,
and then hopefully, and this is where I'm going to answer your other question though, because we are at moderate, but all of these cloud services, all the applications are going to be in 2020. We're going to push them to high, and that's because of the sensitive nature of the technical data that is housed in these applications.
Does that cause you guys any additional challenges, or is it really up to your vendors that support you? Whether it's, you mentioned ServiceNow, you mentioned Microsoft. If they're there, then you're in good shape.
Well, we can inherit, of course, a lot of the controls from those cloud platforms if they're already at high. But there's a number of things that we have to make modifications to: our configuration management plans, our all these other pieces that can't legitimately cannot be inherited by the cloud providers. So it's a shared responsibility. A lot of work on our side, a lot of work on the side of the vendor, getting through the process of getting up to high. ServiceNow has a high platform, and so we'll be moving to that first, and I think that'll be done by March. And then Microsoft Azure Government Cloud is high, but we have to do our work to bring it up to high. So Microsoft doesn't have to do anything in that instance. We have to get all of their documentation, and then we have to do what we need to do to get it to high. And then we'll have Okta and Box and Tableau and the rest of the ecosystem.
All right. A lot of work there. It's going to be, as you said, a busy 2020.
Yes.
You mentioned you're working with the bigger State Department, the Information Resource Management Office, the State Department CIO, on a cross-domain solution. How else do you work with them for shared services? Whether it's financial management or Office 365, email type thing. Walk me through your relationship with the IRM folks.
Yeah, so IRM has a variety of shared services, email, Office 365, the network, the open network, OpenNet network, and the classified network. They handle all of that. And so all these cloud services that I have been procured, and the other thing is I'm really lucky in that we use defense contractor fees, the application fees, to fund all the work that we do, which is kind of nice.
That's kind of.
And so.
And as exports go up, you have more fees, and exports come down.
Right, exactly.
Your budget gets cut.
Exactly. And so every year, we kind of take a look at all of that. But what I like is I'm a big believer in Federa. I actually want to use enterprise licenses. I don't want to be my own special snowflake. I don't want to be having my own things that I'm doing my own things too. So the first point was information assurance. That was the first touch point, because you can't authorize a system without their blessing and without the CIO blessing the system. So that's the obvious piece. But then going further through that, I have been a big advocate of having IRM have my instance so that I can focus more on helping the internal users get better functionality to do a better job of the mission.
Right. Get rid of kind of the day-to-day commodity IT.
Exactly.
I'll just plug in and not worry about it.
Right, and I'll work with contractors and vendors and solutions that can do a better job of meeting the mission and protecting national security.
Exactly, important things. Karen, we're just about out of time. Before I let you go, though, got to ask a question about vendors. I know a lot of vendors do listen to the program. What's your advice to them? How do you like them to work with your office?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah.
I try. I do my best.
Well, I would say that I get a lot of requests already. So hopefully my email won't blow up too much over this. But I will say that I love talking to people about emerging technology. The best way to reach me is probably through LinkedIn or through an email. But I would say that there's a lot of times where I'm not going to take a meeting if it doesn't make sense in my ecosystem. And so I probably have 2 or 3 vendor meetings a week, which is probably a lot for a lot of for many CIOs. But more than anything, I'm looking to educate myself. I'm looking for vendors to educate me on what's out there. And then does that create opportunities for people? I mean, that's how Okta came in. Okta called me. It was a cold call. And I tried to hang up on the guy like 3 times. But he spurred my interest, said that they had just gotten FedRAMP moderate and did a great job and he got a meeting. And that's where it ended.
And the key is FedRAMP here as well, right? If you're going to provide you a solution in the cloud specifically.
Yeah, I'm not looking at anything that doesn't have FedRAMP moderate at a minimum. Yeah. I will not look at it just mainly not because of any other reason than I'm too small. I don't have the resources to go through the process of sponsoring a company to be in the FedRAMP process. And there's lots of very large organizations that have more bandwidth to do that.
That's fair enough. Great advice. This has been a great conversation. Unfortunately, though, we are out of time.
Oh no!
Oh no! We'll have you come back on. Let me thank my guest. Karen Reggie is the Chief Information Officer of the Directorate of Defense Trade Controls at the State Department. Karen, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much. It was fun.
I'm Jason Miller, and you've been listening to Ask the CIO, sponsored by Okta on Federal News Network. For more on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search Ask the CIO.